Hey, what's up? What is up with it? Boom. I'm gonna do one more Mario Kart stream, at least. Uh, Probably just this one, if I can help it. I've got some ideas on what I want to do, um, with my stream going forward. I have uh, kind of like a sense of purpose with this. I've been on a roll today. Cleaned my bathroom, cleaned my room, cleaned the stove, did my laundry. And I cleared out a bunch of tabs that I have. But it's not enough yet. There's still something I gotta do. How's your day? Republican Discord with screaming it's conspiracy theories. I was like, yep, okay, that's definitely true. Didn't actually say that. My day's going quite well. I'm sorry you had to endure the average Republican with their peasant brain. My day is going quite well. I'm still very tired, partly from having been sick, but also partly from helping my sister move house. They're like, why can't I say the N-word in Fortnite? Because it's a slur and you'll... Well, I mean, you can. But, the chat might have an internal thing that might not let you post slurs, or if you say slurs over the microphone, it might ban you. You can say it, there's just consequences if you say it. See, that's the thing with conservatives. Whenever they go on about some shit like, why can't I say the N-word? The question they're asking isn't why can't I say the N-word? Because you can. You can say the N-word. There's not some universal force that is preventing your mouth and vocal cords from uttering those syllables and vowels and such in that order to say that word. No, rather, what's going on is that if you say it, there may be social consequences for you saying it. So you can say it if you want to, but, yeah, what they mean is, why is it bad if I say the N-word? And the answer is, because it's a slur against minorities. That's why. And also because you're not part of said minority group, so you don't have, like, the pass, the in-group pass. Why do these people want hatred so badly, even though I know their ideology is hatred? Yeah, it's an irrational motivator. Also, Real Cryoraptor, welcome to chat. Welcome back. Yeah, a lot of conservatism is just, like, they want to be able to say the N-word and put the clan hood on again without being ostracized from polite society. Like, that's it. They even did that, but black people say it? Like, yeah, well, you're not black, dumbass. It's like how I'm autistic, and historically, a lot of people use the word retard to target autistic people. Therefore, I have the pass. Even though the term retard has actually been kind of reclaimed and normalized in the context of when you say the word retard or retarded, you're not making fun of somebody inherently that has, like, a mental disability, because you wouldn't use it against them, right? Whatever. Yeah, it's kind of like retard is our version of the N-word, but it's even that is less severe than the N-word because of the reclamation. Also, the word faggot. In fact, I think that one's a better example, because you will not find straight people saying faggot unless they are really, really far right, to such an extent that their whole existence is on 4chan or some shit. Like, it's well, you guys know what I'm getting at. Like the people in the Discord that say they're only joking. Yeah, it's that's the Schrodinger shitpost. If it's received well, then haha, yeah, based, and then if it's received poorly, well, calm down, I was just joking. Like, you're not fucking fooling anybody, you idiot. Anyway. Yeah. On the subject of right wingers being completely peasant brained, I felt so smoked. I can see through it. Yeah. On the subject of conservatives being ridiculously peasant brained, there was one thing that I had on my list. I basically, what I want to do is just go through the entirety of my list today. Finally hit a stream and not 10 minutes away from it ending. Plum General, welcome back. Good to have you. I wanted to, like, just go through and not, like, entirely rush, but, like, go through the whole list of stuff that I had on the list, with the exception of one thing that I think will have to be its own stream. Because of what a longer segment it would be. What the fuck is that ramp? These old tracks are wacky, dude. And one of those actually does have to do with, you know, conservatives being extremely peasant-brained and extremely conspiracy-brained. I did hear about that, Gotron. I'll get to that in a minute. And Real Cryoraptor, that was also on my list, and I have something pulled up about that. That's something I will also get to. The first thing I wanted to talk about, though, was something that had, you know, that rivals in its kind of seeming pointlessness. The Legend of Zelda and the Lampshade of No Real Significance. And by that I mean I want to talk about the supposed drone sightings. It's dumb. It's really fucking dumb. And here's the thing, right? Like, everybody, for those outside of the US, apparently the newest, you know, UFO craze, every now and again, the media machine decides to gin up some shit like that so that people get distracted from class consciousness. They basically say, oh shit, people are getting too economically populist and critical of institutions for our liking. Hey, look, a fucking UFO. You know? Like that's what's up. So that's what had been going on in New Jersey the past couple of days, or actually the past couple of weeks. It began with I actually heard about this before it made it into the most major elements of the news cycle, because there's somebody that I that I go to see for counseling, and she lives in New Jersey, and she mentioned that, like, yeah, people have been seeing drones. And I was like, it's probably nothing, it's probably dumb, and people are freaking out. And, you know, sure enough, it is dumb, and people were freaking out. But, as it turns out, it's even dumber than I thought, because most of them aren't even drones. Like, there are people reacting to, oh my god, drones in the night sky, when it's literally the fucking stars, or, like, Venus or something. Or just, like, a regular-ass airplane flying around. And it's like, dude, it's so blatant, is the thing. You know, and of course you can kind of tell that it's a massive hoax, because, like, immediately all the politicians who jump onto it are like the Republicans. Like, state and national level Republican politicians are all the ones, like, jumping onto this thing and being like, oh my god, the UFOs, we gotta figure out what it is. Is it Iran? Is it blah, blah, blah? And then the Pentagon's like, no, it's not Iran, you fucking doofus. Like, the fact of the matter is, there's probably one of three things happening that is causing any observed drone presence in the sky. Number one, somebody's got a shitty-ass dropshipping business and they use drones. Sure, you know. Number two, it could be the military or a company testing something, in which case, yeah, I guess they would be flying drones around a little bit, in which case that's pretty fucking normal too, to, you know, no worries. Or number three, people are full of shit and there's not actually drones flying around. People are legitimately seeing, yeah, Plum General, Jupiter and, like, airplanes and helicopters in the night sky and being like, oh my god, a UFO! Because the thing about that kind of reaction, it seems so, like, far-fetched and out there for what the circumstances really are, and that's because that people are really stupid, and there's a lot of institutional distrust right now. You know, the same reason that people are freaking out about drones, unironically, does actually have a little bit to do with stuff like why Donald Trump won the election. You know? the masses are not very class conscious right now. That's been changing a little bit recently, but you know, when people have institutional skepticism, they don't always have a very good place to put it. So they just kind of start grasping for shit. And at this point, what people have done is they've just, like, latched onto a random thing they saw. They literally, like, looked up at the sky and were like, fuck it, you know? And they needed to feel like there was something they could latch onto as a source of critique and distrust for the government that they could, like, conveniently put words to. And that was UFOs, basically. Even though no such thing exists, that's basically all the news climate kind of permits right now. That's all people have the range to perceive as a way in which the government is deserving of skepticism, you know? That's the mass psychology of these drone sightings, is that people are desperate, but they don't know where to put that desperation. Even, you know, particularly like the people who are not all that smart or systemically aware to begin with. So they'll just be like, shit, lights in the night sky? That seems like UFO to me. You know? Republicans gonna do for distrust when they own the complete government? That's a part of that, you know, like where the institutional distrust ever growing. Like I said, it just needs something to latch onto, and that's all this is. And it's being stoked by the media outlets right now because of its convenience, like the convenience factor in it potentially distracting from class consciousness. If people are thinking that UFOs are the axis along which they shouldn't be trusting the state or whatever, then that's that much attention that they aren't paying to, you know, the CEO that got murked, or Luigi Mangione. You know, it's not a coincidence that these sightings started being reported at about the same time as Luigi Mangione killed the CEO of United Healthcare, allegedly. I don't know, don't think it's been proven in court yet. So, in fact, I think it was like almost exactly after that happened that these sightings started being reported. Yeah, like if you're mind-numbingly desperate for money, you could end up trusting a scam email that's like worded in the right way. Would it be so funny? It would be so funny if Luigi caused class conscious. Well, get ready to laugh, because that's exactly what has happened, you know? Luigi Mangione has actually resulted in a new surge of class consciousness, you know? And that's exactly why these UFO sightings exist, is to distract from that, is to try to put that class consciousness back in a bottle. But that's not so easy. Yeah. Left hero they didn't want but needed. You know, kind of true. Kind of true. It's one of those things where the politics of the act matters more than the politics of the person committing the act. You know? Like, Luigi Mangione's politics are kind of incoherent, but the politics of the act are so compelling that everybody loved it. Or everybody, like, was talking about it and sort of took something from it. You know? Colonizing Mars first period. It's a distraction. Yeah, that's another thing that's a distraction. That's like very targeted towards a more like tech bro audience and stuff like that. I've seen some of that going around on Twitter and stuff. And yeah, the fact of the matter is just that, like, I think I'm dead. Yeah. That's not like it's not a viable thing for people to be honing in on and stuff. Anyways, I feel like I might be at risk of rambling. I just wanted to talk briefly about that, about the drone sightings, well, drone sightings in air quotes, because a lot of that is just shit that's been up there for forever, and that's totally normal and not even remotely worthy of like conspiracy speculation. But people are desperate, and the direction, the mass direction of people's attention is constantly trying to yank them away from class consciousness, and that's why you get so many people seemingly irrationally focusing on drones. You know? And in a way, the sort of Mars colonization is a more optimistic version of that. You know, the aspiration that we might one day go and colonize other planets and stuff, you know, a la Elon Musk futurism or whatever the hell. That's kind of another version of distracting from real systemic issues on Earth to sort of displace attention literally to another planet. And that was just one. That was one of those things. Let's remove that from the list. Splendid. And then Real Cryoraptor. Now, you mentioned the UK. I saw this in the Discord as well, and I looked it up. And yeah, we'll just end up with commercial moon mining operations. Lol. That you know, that's a possibility for sure. Yes, I saw on Discord that the Labour Party, the government of the UK under the Labour Party, the Labour government, has banned puberty blockers for kids experiencing gender dysphoria, and they name that specifically as the group that they are banned for. So it's like very blatantly targeting trans kids, of course. And it's of course not motivated by any real scientific concern, not motivated by any sort of scientific rigor or anything like that. All of the medical reports, all one of them, I believe the CAS report is the only one, the CAS review, that have been produced to say, yeah, puberty blockers are bad, or something, are complete hack jobs. And for another thing, the CAS review doesn't even support its own conclusions. The data from the CAS review, the most that you could invoke from any of those the studies that it picks from in an anti-trans direction is, yeah, further study might be needed. Which, no shit, that's kind of part of the conclusion of any scientific study ever, and, you know, rightfully so. This is just about, like, hurting trans youth. Like, that's it. Yeah, I still remember how to do that part. Labour Cabinet has become absolute turf island. Yeah, and that's part of the declining stages of capitalism. That's, you know, the UK is a nation in decline, as are many other nations, you know, experiencing late-stage capitalism and stuff. And so in a desperate bid for cultural relevance and a sort of identity in the public sphere, as many other nations are also want to search for, they latch on to transphobia, a reactionary sentiment that's very easy to generate short-term fervor with. And as a result, they just target a minority group, and the UK's chosen minority group in this instance is trans people. In the United States, it's trans people and queer people and minorities, not minorities, minorities plural. I mean, we know that, and migrants. Excuse me. It's you know, this is unfortunately, I think, a relatively foreseeable thing that happened. But it's bad. It's really bad. You know, there's legitimately no data to support any of this. Like, every study that you could find on this subject would support this kind of care being available. There's only one reason I'd understand banning HRT. That's a country having a serious population problem. As a trans femme, Do you say work as a last resort? Actually, no, it doesn't even work then. HRT actually helps with fertility in some cases. In that case, HRT being banned would only make the problem worse. There are cis women that take HRT. There are cis men that take HRT. HRT just stands for hormone replacement therapy. And there are, you know, sometimes cis people need their hormones. And trans people are a small enough minority that, like, that infertility doesn't matter. And in fact, invoking the infertility argument is really fucking creepy in the context of trans people, because this is predominantly an underage demographic that we're talking about. You know, like, every time I see that, it's really, really weird, because it's like, oh, these young girls won't be fertile anymore. It's like, okay. Why is that your problem? Yeah, it makes it sound like people are breeding stocks. If these liberals think transphobia will placate the far right, then they deserve to be remembered as the people who made the Prime Minister Farage happen. Yes, and that's exactly what's going to happen. You know, the in the 1930s, to take it all the way back, you know, the Nazis, one of the minority groups they targeted was actually was trans people. As much as TERFs don't want you to know this, despite the fact that it is common knowledge, the Nazis also exterminated trans people as part of the, like, degenerates and homosexuals and whatever kind of group. They, you know, they burned down all the literature in the Institute of Sexology, I believe. And one of the things that enabled them to get away with this was that when they got elected, the Social Democratic Party in Germany adopted the strategy of, maybe we should placate the Nazis. Maybe we should, you know, appease them. We should try to work with them, because then the institutions of liberal government, you know, our social democratic state will set them right. And literally they believed that the institutions of a liberal democracy were a supernatural acting force that would, like, right all wrongs without the need for human intervention and shit like that. Like, they were institutionalists to the core. And a very similar pattern has repeated itself with Labour in the UK and with the Democrats in the United States. And the consistent thing among all of them is that the what ends up actually happening is that you only embolden the far right by, well, deciding not to fight the far right. It's literally the they go low, we go high shit. But in the 1930s, it enabled the Nazis to win and to do a lot of the shit that they wanted to do in Germany. And now it's enabling the conservatives and the far right in the UK and the US as well. Do you think information will survive this era of fascism because of the internet? Yes, I think that fascism by its nature is incompetent. It will not be able to purge all of the records of the events that will transpire over the next several years or decades when it is in power. As long as there are historians left to write history, we will remember what happened during the worst periods of fascism. Take a look at what went on in Germany, right? Like, as dangerous as it was to be writing about the Nazi regime critically, there were historians and academics writing during the Second World War about Nazism in Germany and the horrors and atrocities they were committing, or rather, where their political platform would lead. Future fascists will be like, why is there any info about trans people then? Yeah, well, that's what they're saying now. The problem is they're lying through their teeth, because that data does exist. If you go back through the historical record, there were trans people in 1930s Germany. If you go back through the historical record, there were trans people in the earlier 20th century, in the 19th century. Hell, you can go back in the archaeological record, like thousands of years, and there are trans people. They are consistently, there's not very many, but they exist. And they were, a pretty normal part of society. The massive, massive trans panic is the exception rather than the rule. Fascists will always say, well, why isn't there any information on trans people? Because it is to their interest to insinuate and sell a narrative that trans people didn't exist until recently. They said the same thing about gays in 1950 and 60. The gay panic in the 1950s and 60s was fueled by the language of this being a new fad and or social contagion that was plaguing the youth and stuff like that. Despite the fact that if you actually look at the historical evidence and even at the time, it would have been much more recent in places like Nazi Germany and whatever. Gay people are a perfectly normal part of society and you know, perfectly consistent part of society and have existed for millennia. Romans and Greeks, one of those I forgot which. It was both of them. I think I know what you're talking about. Literally more accepting of queer people than modern day conservatives. Like they were the CEOs of misogyny. Yeah, in that way, they were homosexuality's strongest warriors because they hated women and loved men. Okay, alright. Aw, dang. I tried to change, but... People say the same things about autism and ADHD. Yeah, and if you take a careful look back, again, through the historical record, you will find that autistic and attention deficit addled people have always existed. These neurological tendencies have always existed. The thing is, we've only recently, with those, we actually have only relatively recently medicalized and categorized them as things that can be diagnosed, like by a doctor, by a medical professional. You know? In this box, yeah. I think the only reason my parents are at least one parent now are autistic people because me and my brother are autistic. Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, neurological, a lot of neurology, like brain chemistry and that sort of thing, some of the innate brain characteristics that would make people more inclined to certain points on a neurological spectrum are, you know, inherited from your parents and whatever, right? The thing is just that, like, in the 1940s, if you were autistic or had ADHD, they would have, like, put you in a straitjacket or made you do this with your fingers and hit you with a ruler until you stopped behaving that way. They basically abused you into eventually not acting that way, into performing neuro, like, normativity and stuff. And then recently we realized, oh shit, hitting kids isn't a good idea actually, because that fucks them up for life. And more people stopped doing that, and as a result, it became more socially acceptable to deviate ever so slightly from neurological, neurological, like, social norms and stuff like that. If anything, I think what we've learned more so recently is that being neurotypical is the exception rather than the rule. Because when you're neurotypical, that just means you are most well-equipped to smoothly function in the world as it exists today. But the world changes. You know, like, basically, if you're neurotypical, all that means is that you are well-suited for a capitalist world. Neurotypical people can be fucking psychopaths, right? There are some tendencies that exist in neurotypical people that I'm like, how the fuck do you live? You know? Neurology is cool as fuck. Funny if you think about it. How we're using our brains to learn more about brains. Yeah, that's true. The brain's way of learning about itself. But to take it all the way back to the original subject at hand, which was the the Labour Party government now banning puberty blockers in the UK. All of the data, both for medication for trans youth, for like healthcare for trans youth, as well as for a number of other subjects that have been the site of moral panics over the years, over the decades. There's no evidence to support any real benefit coming from such a ban on medicine and medical treatments, medical practice, and it really is just about killing as many trans kids as possible or forcing them back into the closet. And ultimately, politicians and their wealthy benefactors will be fine with either one, so long as it means that there are less trans people in the world. That's it. So your next topic. Puberty blockers are also used for shit like early puberty, so good job, Labor. Yeah, two possibilities there. Number one, they don't care, and they're perfectly willing to have all those kids suffer and have traumatic childhood experiences or whatever because they went into puberty too early or something like that. Or they would say, oh, well, those kids aren't trans, so you guys can use it, but trans people can't. In which case, we know that, again, they don't care. They're just doing it to harm minorities. Yeah, fascists are incoherent and very evil. Yeah, the two options there are either they're evil or they're evil, right? Like, either they are okay with hurting cis kids if it also hurts trans kids, in which case, evil, or they will go out of their way to say, no, 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 it's fine for cis kids. We just don't want trans kids having access to medical treatment, in which case, also evil, because they know that it's just about harming kids, either way, you know? Anyway, that's all I can really offer on that subject. Hit them with the classic conditions will worsen. What's the next thing? I find it so funny how politics, it's like everything's black and white. No, everything is right. Everything is black and white and stupid. No, oh no, everything is gray. Yeah, that's what is it? Informed simplicity. Sometimes people are just evil, and political ideologies are just evil, such as the case with fascism and its collaborating forces. Something I try to ask people out of curiosity is if they could choose one country to live in, speak their language perfectly, instantly. Whenever I hear them say Japan, a little part of me cringes. Like, I adore Japanese culture, would really like to visit there for a vacation. But I deadass would not live there. Yeah, that's probably a good decision. I don't think I would either. Oh, item boxes. Nice. Like, their work culture is awful, the school culture is awful, tourists in general, etc. Yeah, a lot of compelling reasons to not live in Japan if given the option. Whoa, what the fuck was that? I'm dead. It's like we're in the movie, about to hit the middle low point. Part of me cracks up whenever they say Japanese is Japan is socialism or whatever. Oh yeah. I mean, to them, to a lot of people who would say that like anything where your life doesn't suck 24/7 and where you're not in constant medical debt or car payment debt is socialism. So Japan fits the bill there. What's the online fascination? Oh yeah. Real Cryoraptor. You're absolutely right. A lot of you know, the weebs who were / continue to be obsessed with Japanese culture in that way are just like really like how fucking misogynistic and socially conservative they are, and how women are treated as objects and shit in Japan. But the next thing I wanted to move on to was actually the Amazon strike, the Teamsters union going on strike, other workers going on strike at I think some of Amazon's locations. Republicans had their way with Japan. Slave them, make them. What? I'm not sure I understand, but I think I agree. Because, yes. Oh, if Republicans have had their way with Japan, they would enslave them, make them anime for incels. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. You know, your country is fucked when there's an entire forest for committing self-death. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty fucked. Alright. The next thing that I saw recently, it was actually some good news. With, of course, some elements that could turn into bad news. As is the case with basically anything. Amazon workers. They're going on strike. They've been on strike for a few days now. It's you know, Teamsters up in New York, I believe, gone on strike. And this is, I believe, the first strike in Amazon's history, or something like that. The first strike by a union in Amazon's history, which I think is really fucking cool. You know, the hot labor summer never ends. Even in a Republican administration, this is one of the things that was so good about the hot labor summer occurring when it did. Even if you get a Republican and a hostile NLRB in the White House, in the government, it's going to be really, really fucking difficult to put a lid on the class consciousness that has developed as a result of the uptick in unionization recently. You know, and of course Amazon, ripe for being a target of that unionization, because you know, Amazon's one of the first places people think of when they think of those like captive audience meetings. Like, we're a family. Definitely don't unionize to try to get better pay and benefits and stuff, because we're a family and we care so much about you that we will throw you a pizza party instead of giving you a raise, and we will buy $1 billion squadrillion of stock for our shareholders, you know? But you guys got pizza, so it's fine. And then in unison, people at Amazon decided, no, it's not fine, actually. Fuck you. We are forming a union because we deserve an honest day's pay for an honest day's work. They've gone on strike, and very quickly they have been met with the NYPD. Let's see. Amazon strike. Let's see. We're only gonna get like pro-business outlets here, except for, what is this? Uni Global Union? Interesting. Make Amazon pay. Global protests and strikes to target Amazon's anti-worker and anti-democratic practices. Oh shit, this isn't just in the US? Let's go. From Black Friday to Cyber Monday, Amazon workers and allies across 6 continents are set to strike. Oh wait, this was a little while ago. Hold on. That was 3 weeks ago. Okay, International Brotherhood of Teamsters launch largest strike against Amazon in American history. Let's go. Now, of course, it's unfortunately, this is under the leadership of Sean O'Brien, which, if you guys remember, this was the union leader that endorsed Trump for president at the RNC. You know, shit-ass union boss endorsed the anti-union candidate. Great, thank you. I mean, not like Kamala Harris probably would have been all that much better, let's be honest. You know? I feel like Joe Biden was like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this sort of shit. But it's a big thing. It's a big deal that this strike is occurring. Like I said, this is going to be extremely hard to put back in a bottle. And, you know, let me draw from my Luxembourgist, my Rosa Luxemburg part of my brain here, which is that even if trade unions have their limits in workers' rights advocacy and advancing the interest of the workers, the tool of going on strike is always going to be useful for the working class to, well, realize their interests. In fact, that's probably how you're going to start seeing things get better and better, is there's going to be more and more strikes, you know? And more concessions won over time. You know, it's a difficult fight, but you know, we're gonna get there. Let's get through this section, and then people say Biden didn't do anything. He kind of didn't. Now, in the case of people going on strike, it was kind of good that he didn't do much, right? Because usually the government has a habit of actually weighing in against the unions. You know, even though there's the NLRB, and that's a thing that exists, usually the government has been perfectly content to be the enforcer of the business interests and to just come in and save the day for Amazon and whoever else. You know, that actually happened a couple times during the Obama administration. You know, where they convinced unions to take pay cuts. They convinced unions to do concessions the last time there was a Democratic president. So Joe Biden not doing anything was actually an improvement this time. And as an added bonus, he actually did signal tacit support for some of the striking workers at times, which is also cool. But that's about the only good thing that came from his presidency. And, you know, we'll see whether it lasts or not. I heard a stupid argument one time where people said strikes are selfish. Ah, the retard argument. What's selfish is the executives creating the conditions that make a strike necessary to begin with, you know? I'm in a union at work, but there's a strict no-strike policy, so it's as good as pointless. And yeah, that's some of the limits of trade unionism. Ultimately, the fate of a union is also tied to the fate of the business where it exists. So it is liable to fall into a pattern like that, where it continually moderates until basically it's just another arm of the business interest. But, you know, it sort of tries to extend that business interest a little bit to the workers. But in so doing, they strip themselves of their ability to actually realize any of those interests for the workers. There's an actor for Green Arrow that said the same things, a strike are not necessary for unions, and he got such blowback. It was funny. That sounds pretty funny. Especially because, like, if you're an actor for Green Arrow, how do you do that and not know that Green Arrow is a socialist? Like, that's one of the few things that I will defend DC Comics for, is that they made a socialist character in the form of Green Arrow. just gonna use this. Yeah, pay people a decent wage and give them decent working conditions, and they won't strike. But there is a necessary there's a necessary progression of capitalism that makes it so that, you know, you can't grow and get profits forever, right? Like, that's not possible. And eventually what starts to happen is that the rate of profit begins to fall. Like, because of the demand for infinite growth all the time and shit like that, eventually more and more corners are going to have to be cut, and one of the first things that they go to is wages. And that is the purview of unions. The interests of big businesses, and small businesses as well, necessarily will run up against the interests of the workers and the unions that represent them. You know, that's like this is part of the dynamic where the business interests, the interests of the capital class, necessarily run against that logic, you know, to such a degree that eventually it actually becomes irrational, you know, where, like, conditions start worsening for everybody. Funny how stupid I thought Green Arrow was. The more I learned about them, the cooler he gets. The greatest lie in our country is that everything is equal. Yeah, you know, insert the meme about, you know, the law in its majestic equality forbids both rich and poor alike from behaviors that only exclusively poor people engage in, ever. You know? And, as well, if the law in its majestic equality results in a rich person facing prison time, or, you know, a business owner facing prison time, then that is a mistake in the law. You know? These are some of those contradictions, like literally forces that contradict each other, that will tear society apart if they are left unchecked. The business interests contravening the interests of the other 99% of people will be the death of broader society if it goes unchecked for too long. And because those interests are what they are, it will necessarily result in, you know, eroding away at a standard of living that would otherwise be able to keep society stable and keep those same business people somewhat happy. You know? And now the most recent version of that lie is people have the opportunity to not suffer. How far the liberal has fallen from "we must establish the equal right of all and overthrow the monarchs which gave special privileges to the extremely powerful and wealthy nobility" to, yes, we know that the system creates mass suffering, but have you considered that if you vote for us, you'll have the opportunity, maybe, if you try hard enough, to not suffer eternally? That was the gist of the messaging with Kamala Harris's campaign on the opportunity economy. Yes, you will have the opportunity to not live in abject poverty, which by definition means that not everybody will be able to take that opportunity. I just keep having these life people that work with us. They're like, no, I think the Republicans have a point, yeah. Liberals are just feeble and need the law to dictate their morals. Liberals terse. Yes. Yeah, a lot of liberals, because we live in currently a liberal political system, a liberal socioeconomic system, a lot of them have no broader political aspirations, and as such, they don't really have a good outlet for like developing a ethical or moral framework. So a lot of them will default to whatever the law says, you know? Because in order to have ethics, you have to have strong principles about whether things are or are not how they should be, where liberals are you know, politically have a general sense of contentedness. You know, that is to say, not necessarily exactly content with the way things are, but content to sort of tweak around the edges as though things are usually mostly okay, which, you know, they're really not. Oh, dang. I swear I wasn't hitting that. Oh, well. But anyways, leftist meme, and I am very happy to see that the Amazon workers are going on strike, even though the NYPD has quickly come to the defense of Amazon, and they've sort of participated in some strike breaking. They've enabled some scabs to get into the work sites or whatever. But the nature of scabs existing is that they are not ideal insofar as like replacing the regular workers there. You can't rely on scabs forever. You know, how long until, number one, your whole operation gets fucked up because scabs don't have as much experience or knowledge to do what the regular workers do, or until the scabs get tired of those working conditions and start to form a union themselves, you know? Eventually something will give. Whether it be an increasing amount of state force being employed against the striking workers, or whether it be Amazon finally coming to the negotiation table, at which point things can actually properly improve for the workers there. I'm bored of being polite to liberals or pretending that they're on the left. They aren't and never have been. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really want to play nice with liberals anymore. I think, like I said, that ideological sorting of liberals either into fascism or socialism has kind of started. And as far as I'm concerned, our job now is to try to get as many liberals to fall on the left-leaning side of that as possible, to drag them over to socialism before they just decide, yeah, okay, I think fascism is good. Think Elizabeth Warren is to the left, then you're on the right? Yeah, I would say so. Or actually, it's possible that there are a lot of people that are on the left that, you know, since everybody's not completely coherent or consistent, that would think Elizabeth Warren is on the left. But the fact of the matter is, yes, I think Elizabeth Warren is ultimately pretty damn close to the center. Because again, she is part of the she's an integrated part of the Democratic Party establishment. She sabotaged Bernie in the primary campaign, which ultimately led to the Democratic Party going down the road that it did, in part. And she doesn't usually advocate much for systemic change. She has her moments, but at the end of the day, you know, she's still a liberal. She's not really... She's too institutionalist pilled, which makes her a part of the center, not the left. Oh, I remember this track. This track is wacky. What do you think an Amazon worker would do if they had 1 minute with Jeff Bezos on camera? Well, there are a good number of them that would do something that I genuinely don't think I'm allowed to describe on Twitch because it would violate terms of service. Like, there's a few of them that would do that. And there are some of them, I have no doubt, that would just kind of have a conversation. Because, you know. That feel when liberals call Bernie a cult of personality. Oh, how little they know. All things that happened on that server with liberals, by the way. Ah. Yeah. That seems about right. There was... Keep in mind, though, there was a time when liberals were a constituent part of the left, politically speaking, right? And that time, you would have to go back several hundred years. And by that, I mean back to the French Revolution. During the French Revolution, and up to, I want to say, like, the point when the socialists started to diverge. Up until, like, the 1820s and 30s, maybe, liberals could accurately be said to have been part of the left, because they were focused so much on institutional change, on overthrowing monarchs. But the moment that that monarchies decided to sort of compromise with liberalism in a way, and the moment that all those, like, marriages between the merchants and the aristocratic families happened, the moment that there was that divergence between liberals and socialists, liberals ceased to be a part of the left because they became much more focused on preserving the system that existed at the time than they were on improving conditions of life and separating themselves from the monarchies of years past, you know? In my opinion, if you betray Bernie Sanders in that election, it should be called treason, even though that's excessive. In my opinion, TERFs are not part of the left. Oh yeah, TERFs are not part of the left and really never have been. In the 1970s there and 80s, there was a very brief moment where some of the radical second wave feminists had some pretty anti-trans takes and wrote some essays to that effect. But I get the sense that a lot of them were academically motivated by saying, yeah, transness doesn't necessarily challenge patriarchy. In fact, in some ways, it reinforces patriarchy, which if you squint at, there's some truth to that. But since then, all of the people who initially started with those arguments have since devolved into trans people are degenerates who need to be purged from society, which doesn't even remotely resemble like, well, you know, trans identity doesn't necessarily contradict the patriarchy that we are seeking to fight here. You know, and it is very telling that ever since that point, you will only ever see the political bedfellows of TERFs being far-right or Nazi operatives. The TERFs have never been a constituent part of any left-leaning coalition. They have never coalition built with the left because they view the left as degenerate because trans people are degenerate and the left doesn't hate trans people. It feels like at the end you'll become a communist or a fascist no matter what you believe in the beginning. Yeah, that's the sort of ideological sorting that takes place in a liberal system. Liberalism is the platform, it is the current system, it's the starting ground. And from there, you could either seek to improve society at a systemic level and might make life better for everyone, at which point you will eventually arrive at some version of socialism, you know, and like wanting to further the principles of democracy and alter the systems in a way that sort of strips power away from people who have like ungodly amounts of wealth and shit. Or you could go the route of being extremely spiteful and usually hating women, and you end up at the route of being a fascist, because fascism as an ideology really comes down to the sexual insecurity at the end of the day. You know, there's a former, I believe it was François Mitterrand. I don't know. One of the former presidents of France was very famous for a couple of their quotes because they were socialists, and they said there are two choices: capitalism or not capitalism, socialism or barbarism. Those are the two options. Fascism is barbarism, and socialism is socialism. But you know. Liberals try to avoid the system by saying too far on both sides. Yeah, and that's exactly how the pipeline progresses, where liberals will at times just turn into fascists. That's part of the liberal to fascist pipeline, is the notion that like, oh well, you know, I just think that they've gone too far on both sides. The increasing denial and refusal to take a stance will only lead you into the bowels of political reaction every time, because it's literally a categorical rejection of introspection, you know, which is itself reaction. Anyways, all that started as me talking about the striking workers at Amazon and you know, like Gotron, I think it was like you said earlier, that it does feel like we're entering the sort of low point in a movie, to the sort of middle point where everything sucks. You know? Yeah. Now the next thing. Ah. What's the next topic? Funny you should ask. There's an article in my French newsfeed that I thought was pretty funny. W for South Korean politics. Rare W, but W nonetheless. The South Korean president has been impeached. He's gone. His ass is grass. Le président de la Corée du Sud destitué par le Parlement. The parliament voted to impeach him. 192 deputies from the opposition, so all of them, voted to get him out of there. And then only 12 members of his own party voted to impeach him. But that was enough to surpass the 200 out of 300 threshold that they needed. Get his ass out of there. They did better than America? They did. Although I did want to mention as well, despite the fact that obviously like this is a better outcome than what happened after January 6th, they're still kind of close to the brink in a way, because only 12 of the president's own party voted to get him out of there, even though I think the whole parliament voted to overturn the martial law order or something. You know, most of them rejected the martial law, which means that there are a lot of conservative parliamentarians, like members of parliament, who said, yeah, the martial law was bad and stuff, but I don't think he should be impeached over it, you know? Yeah, just because you're better than America and are capable of rendering some political consequences for a literal attempt at a coup d'etat doesn't mean you're, like, good, you know? That's still, I would still consider South Korea to be very much, like, you know, alert level orange or some shit on them becoming a fascist dictatorship. They're not as close to it as we are. Like, we're in the fucking sunset days of the Weimar Republic over in the United States, as far as you know, becoming a fascist dictatorship, or at least a fascist run shithole of a neoliberal country. Korea's just got some more time to figure that out. Yeah, we're at the moment right before Palpatine announces the takeover and whatever. Except it's probably, you know, I think I've mentioned this before, it's probably not going to be exactly like that, where it's like, I'm now president for life, or whatever the fuck. They're probably going to, they've probably learned from the mistakes of other dictatorships that it's best to maintain enough of a veneer of democracy that there are some people that you can sort of trick with plausible deniability arguments that, like, no, look, we're still a democracy. We still have X, Y, and Z, right? Yeah, Putinism, basically. The Russian version of a fascist government run by oligarchs. In fact, we're getting, you know, very directly, we're getting that oligarch influence in the form of Elon Musk. You know, where Elon Musk is very openly, you know, discussing policy objectives that he wants to set, him personally, on Twitter, and to such a point that a lot of people are joking about President Musk and Vice President Trump, you know? Epic track. Palpatine's in the movie he was present for life, he just did it. Yeah. But I don't think it's even going to be that blatant. It might not even be that blatant. You know? Like, there might not even be a public announcement related to that. It might just, well, no, there probably will be. Never mind. Turbulent times ahead. We'll just say that. Yeah, Trump might not live long enough for his term to be super long. But, you know. It definitely doesn't help either that all the media outlets are preemptively capitulating. And it's gotta be pretty fucking desperate in the United States for South Korea to look stable by comparison. Keep in mind, South Korea is still dealing with the full-blown incel crisis over there. You know, like all of those, like all the AI revenge porn and shit, and like violence against women, that's still happening in South Korea. Like their civil society is in a state of decay because of like, well, these sort of late stage capitalist conditions that would drive people to be so alienated and spiteful and reactionary that they would turn into those kinds of incels. But you know, they're just not at the full fascist endgame yet. Ah, Toad8, welcome to chat. Yeah, Right Turn Simulator, this track. This takes me back. When Trump dies, I expected them to make it like, oh, the left assassinated him. We'll commit more martial law. They might try to do something like that. We'll see. It wouldn't surprise me, especially because the Democrats are more concerned still with stuffing progressives than with meaningfully challenging the Republicans, the party that is opposed to them. Also, I did some of the staff goes for this pack. Oh, cool. How cool. Oh, shit. I'm getting bombed. Anyway, that like, for me, that wraps up that topic. That I just wanted to talk a little bit about how it was very funny that, you know, how to destroy your political career in 3 easy steps. Number 1, declare martial law. Number 2, all of Parliament hates you because you declared martial law. Number 3, you get impeached by Parliament. Congratulations. You know? Oh, yeah, and also the whole country hates him. I can picture Republicans... framing some guy? Maybe. Yeah, congratulations. You're stupid as fuck. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's true. He just didn't have the sauce. He's not him. I don't know what to tell you. Even though it's a dead horse, can we talk about Luigi? Oh boy, can we. Yeah, sure, we can talk a little bit about it. I mentioned it a bit earlier, like when I was talking about like those drone sightings and how it's a load of shit. Yeah, Luigi Mangione. I honestly, a part of me doesn't know what to say that I haven't already said or that hasn't already been said or something like that. But as I was saying earlier, the politics of the act matters way more than the politics of the person in this case. The politics of the act of, well, fucking up a CEO in broad daylight is something that a lot of Americans resonate with. That resonates with a lot of Americans, particularly because that guy's job as a CEO was to ensure that the company was able to make profits for the shareholders. And how did the company, United Healthcare, make profits for the shareholders? They denied people's health insurance claims. In fact, they denied 1/3 of the claims that they got. If you submit a claim to United Healthcare, doesn't matter what it's for, there's a 1/3 chance that you're going to get denied. They killed a lot of people's grandmas who needed cancer treatment. A lot of people's, you know, grandparents who needed surgery, who needed medicine for a chronic condition or whatever the hell. That's how they make their money. Is by denying people medical coverage. Crazy Cat, welcome to chat. Sound like a rambling lunatic? Am I a rambling lunatic for discussing something that somebody explicitly asked if I would talk about? Because I really don't think that qualifies. But yeah, the politics of the act of killing a CEO matters more to the average person than the politics of the person committing the act, right? Luigi Mangione's politics are kind of all over the place. I've read some of his posts and stuff. Although he likes Brainloo, so that's cool. People fucking hate CEOs the world around. And that includes in America. Particularly because in America, the CEOs of health insurance companies, it's their job to make sure that people don't get healthcare. You know, that's literally how health insurance companies make profit, is by ensuring that people do not get healthcare when they need it. Otherwise, they can't really make a profit. That's just the nature of what a for-profit health insurance company is, you know? So I don't think we should be too surprised when a lot of people are sympathizing with Luigi Mangione. There are no mods, so I'll have to decide what to do with that guy in a second. Apart from that, I don't know too many details about, like, the upcoming trial and stuff. He's gonna be convicted for sure, because the question is, like, did he kill the CEO? Which he objectively did. Like, there's video of him doing it. I'm sure the trial is gonna be, like, you know, they're gonna probably have some decently speedy justice for a CEO, because that's, you know, that's who the legal system is built for. That's who a liberal system supports. But it is telling just how much they've tried to make an example out of Luigi, and how much they've tried to, like, discredit him. The charges he's being brought up on are not just murder, but rather terrorism. Like, bro murked a CEO that's responsible for fucking mass death, and they were like, what? You're a terrorist. You know? Like, oh no, the public has been so aggrieved and targeted and terrified by a CEO getting killed who's responsible for, like, murking grandma when she had cancer. Yeah. Like, literally, you have ethics that make you not like CEOs. Therefore, you're a terrorist. So you're a bottom. We don't take kindly to fascists in this chat. I mean, bottoms are okay sometimes, but not when they suck CEO cock. There we go. I'll time you out for that long, sure. And then, don't bottom shame me. I'm definitely a bottom. Luckily, I caught myself. We support bottoms here, just not bottoms that suck CEO cock. So you're good. This is personal growth. I used to be much more mean to bottoms. But I will be mean to you if you want me to. That's fun sometimes. Yeah, just don't bottom to fascists. Crazy Cat is a bottom for fascists. That's why you get muted. You know, elbows up. The media is really trying to make an example out of Luigi Mangione. But this is all part of a really big Streisand effect, I think. The more they try to make an example out of him, the more people sympathize with him. Because, like, oh, he took the fight to the powerful, greedy, rich bastards, right? Like, and now the media is trying to shut him up, and the system is trying to, like, just quickly throw him away, you know, lock him up and throw away the key and stuff. And that makes him even more of a folk hero. Every time they do something specifically meant to target Luigi Mangione, he just becomes more and more of a folk hero each time. And that includes, actually, there was I'm sure people have probably heard about this as well. There was a woman who was on the phone with United Healthcare. This was her health insurance company. And they denied her claim. And she got kind of upset and said, like, you know, whatever. Deny, delay, depose. You people are next. And they sicked the police department on her. She got arrested and charged, like, $100,000 or something, right? Like, they are terrified. They're shitting themselves. Is the Streisand effect the one where the more you suppress it, the louder it gets? Yes, that's the Streisand effect. Wish the government was this efficient with Republicans. Yeah, well, the government is only efficient when it comes to its designated purpose, which is to protect CEOs and the wealthy and the propertied class, right? The reason the government is super sluggish and inefficient whenever liberals, or even more so when conservatives and fascists are in charge, is because we're looking at that from the perspective of we want the government to be efficient for us, for working people and stuff, right? Ah. Oh, wow, that was a good shock. Okay. Woman shouts at Nazi shirt. His company gets $100,000 fine. Police officers are fined to beat up pro-Palestine protesters. Oh yeah, the cops know which side their bread is buttered on. The cops are a textbook example of a class traitor. And funnily enough, Luigi Mangione is a pretty good example of a class traitor too. He was from a very wealthy family, and he had a pretty cushy job as far as I know. But my man hates CEOs, so we support him for that. We don't support him for the killing, of course. Pepe, etc. We disavow and all that, but we support the sentiment. At this point, they may as well just say, "Are you rich?" And when you say no, they beat you to death. That's kind of true. There have been a couple stories in years past where the cops have like pulled over a black guy and been ready to shoot them until they find out that they're like a business owner or something. And they're like, oh I'm sorry, right this way, sir. Like they do the fucking salty spittoon bit. I had a bowl of nails for breakfast without any milk or whatever. Except instead of that, it's him saying, yes, I own a business, or I'm a executive at such and such. So, it might not be literally that, but that sometimes you get something that does kind of look like that. I remember this track. This track is actually really cool. I wish this design, like, came back. Eh. Like... That's true. What? Oh yeah, I remember that shortcut being really goofy. Can go this way? No! Dang it. Bullet Bill not sending their strongest this time. Give me this box. What? Oh, there was a banana there. I actually didn't see that. Even when I hit it, I didn't see it. Yeah, 0 out of 10 bullet. Let's see if this one's gonna be any better. Alright, that was jank as hell, but we're making it work. Okay, lesson learned, do not take that shortcut. Ow. Alright, fine. Fine! I'll use the bullet here instead of trying to do the shortcut and then use it. Okay. 2 bullet bills in a row? Oh, yeah. Oh, no, wait. I think I got a golden mushroom. Oh, no, you're right. I did get 2 bullets in a row. Alright, let's use this here. What's the next thing? See, I talked about Yoon Suk Yeol. Oh, let's continue on the line with heads of state. Close out the thing about Yoon Suk Yeol. No longer the president. Or actually, I think still is. There's some procedural shit that has to happen for like the impeachment thing to be made official, and then he actually leaves office, and then they have another president after him. But the other head of state I wanted to mention was Benjamin Netanyahu, because blood is on trial in Israel. Interesting developments. He's on trial for corruption. The Israeli judiciary is not very happy with him. He engaged in some kind of shit. I have the Al Jazeera article open, so I'll be able to take a look at it. But when I heard about this, what instantly came to mind was, first off, he can literally just flee to the U.S. and the U.S. would probably protect him, as fucked up as that is, you know. But then secondly, it did remind me as well of a lot of the memes with Donald Trump, where it's like, surely old Donny boy won't be able to wriggle his way out of this one, and then he wriggles his way out of this one, and then people are like, ah, well, nevertheless, and you know, on and on it goes. Either way, I think you know, it's funny in a way, like, but I actually don't think it's gonna amount to much. That might be one of my more doomer opinions, is that I don't think Netanyahu's gonna face any meaningful consequences, even for the shit that he's like legitimately getting in trouble for. Oh, okay. Give me item? No. You forget evil people have it on easy mode? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, evil people have it on easy mode because of fucking evil, fucked up world. Also, I guess the song isn't properly looped or something? That's unfortunate. Alright. Try again. This is 2-lap track. Nice. Left us on Dark Souls hard difficulty. That's true. All the like all the people who want good things to happen are on fucking nightmare mode, triple X difficulty or some shit. You know, we're on hardcore mode. Meanwhile, he's like peaceful mode, no obstacles, fucking no threat to him whatsoever. Yeah, I got a box. Ow. Oh, okay. Okay, those don't have a hitbox. I'm remembering another track where those things have a hitbox. Okay. Israel's Netanyahu decries, quote, absurd charges at corruption trial appearance. Interesting. You can tell when Republicans win, like, they're like, oh wow, when the left win, they scream and dance and everything. Yeah, the Republicans always pitch a huge fit when they lose. And the Democrats, they do that because they know that the Democrats are going to capitulate to them in some degree, which makes it easier for them to not lose in the future. And also fascists love looking for an excuse to, you know, act on their victim complex. It's part of grievance politics. Alright. Netanyahu took the stand for about 4 hours and will resume testifying on Wednesday. Meant the left, not Democrats. I meant the left, not Democrats. No, yeah, I know. Like whenever not the Republicans win, which could be the left or whatever. Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu has taken the stand for the first time in his long-running corruption trial. Oh yeah, this trial's been going on for like a couple years. That makes me actually think it's even less likely that something's gonna happen. Oh, this track. I love this track. Watch this. Whee! That's a ramp. Remember how excited everyone was when gay marriage was legal? I do remember that. And for once, Republicans kind of had to hold their tongue about it. No! Gay people get to be happy and get married? No! Average Republican. What's gonna happen in the future would make a great movie, but I don't want it to want it to happen in real life. That's a pretty good way of putting this. Some of the stuff that is about to happen would indeed be pretty good as a movie, but not good when it happens in real life. Yeah. Give me item, thank you. The best item in the game? Sick. No, I need this item too much. That, yes. Go this way. This track is really big. Doesn't help us that the left likes to purity test. You know what's interesting? I've seen the left do that less and less as of late. I think the left realizes how desperate things are getting, and the focus right now is on organizing and finding other people that generally have the same principles and are willing to fight fascism. This is like, recently, the left being threatened has made it like more united than I've really ever seen it. Like, when I got into politics, the left was super fractured. And stuff like that. And it was for several years, even you know, during the 2020 election cycle and stuff like that. But as fascism has encroached closer and closer, and now that it's here, I've seen the left get progressively more and more united against fascists and against liberals as well. And there are a lot of, to the credit of some of the liberals that have moved to the left, that are much closer to being socialists now, they actually are willing to see a lot of the critiques of the current like liberal system and liberal parties governing those systems, and been willing to kind of be like, okay, you know, you guys are headed in the right direction with this, right? Like, the left has a kind of grassroots power, is slowly growing a kind of grassroots power now that I haven't seen in a long time, and that I don't think has really existed during my lifetime. Saving the lead when Republicans voters realize something bad about that. Yes, yes. Yes, no, no, no. I mean, oh, yeah. Yeah, remember when the discourse about gas stoves was happening and Republicans were like, you liberals are never going to take away my gas stove. I'm going to directly inhale the fumes. Like, great. You know, I'm so owned by you giving yourself brain damage. Like... What are some of the details here? So he said, this is a witch hunt, I'm being persecuted, etc., etc., as is the victim complex of the fascists. Netanyahu, longest serving PM. Oh yeah, Benjamin Netanyahu is basically like Vladimir Putin, but in Israel. He was the prime minister when Bill Clinton was president. Bill Clinton was president from 1993 to 2001. And Netanyahu was the prime minister back then. He was the prime minister when Bush was president. He was the prime minister when Obama was president. He was the prime minister when Trump was president. And he's the prime minister now. And he will be the prime minister probably still in January when Trump assumes office. So in a way, it's kind of amazing to me that these trials are, this trial is happening to begin with. Because it seems like in his incompetence, he kind of forgot to do the whole stripping the ability of the institution to hold him accountable thing, you know? Which is good for, I don't know. It's good for the purposes of him getting kind of murked. From Frightened Canada saying he's gonna make it the 51st state. He can't do that. He's not gonna either. Like, yeah. Like, no, we're not gonna fucking invade Canada. Just like we're not probably going to invade Mexico. Not properly, anyways. I can't trust stupid people, to be honest. Well, just remember what Trump had been doing with the whole tariffs sort of thing, where he was like, we're going to tariff everybody, including our allies. We'll tariff Canada 1 billion million% unless they close the border. And then Canada was like, yeah, okay, I guess we can increase security a little bit here and here. You know, we can post a few extra agents on our side of the border. And then Trump was like, they agreed to all my terms. It was magnificent. It was tremendous. You never heard me use that word recently, but it was tremendous. Canada, they gave me everything I wanted, you know? He literally did, like, the mission accomplished bit, you know? Hope it's not going to be, like, one of those 3 years later moments. Oh, I hope so, too. But, like, again, it's one of those things where it's so stupid and ruinous that if they do it, it will be the last thing that they do. Like, if Trump and the Republicans decide, yeah, let's invade Canada, then their ass is grass. Like, even the news media isn't willing to take the dive for that. Are you sure Republicans think they're invincible? Well, yeah, they do think they're invincible, but they're not, like... there are still some intelligent political operatives left in their ranks, you know? Even among the true believers, I guarantee you could ask them, and they'll posture for the cameras about, oh, something's got to be done about Canada letting all these migrants into our country or whatever, but they like... If you got them without the cameras, they'd be like, no, of course we're not going to fucking invade Canada. That's stupid. You know? Invading Canada would make it harder for them to realize what they really want to do, which is, you know, oppress minorities and kill trans people. So they probably won't do it. You know, invading our allies and trade partners would prevent basically anything else from happening, which includes things that the fascists want to do. You know? They're just kind of posturing. If you feel like everything is about minorities with Republicans, they can't be happy, they must suffer. I don't care about my own happiness. That's exactly right. That's exactly the ideology that motivates the fascist. It is not... I do not care if I prosper. I simply want those worse than me to suffer. Like, that's it. And even if they suffer too, they're okay with that. Let's keep scrolling through here. Yep. Siege of Gaza. Ah, yes. Okay. Fraud, bribery, breach of trust, etc., etc. So there's three cases here. Lavish gift giving, business deals, etc. Yeah, but, like, whatever the decision is on those cases, I don't think it's gonna amount to too much. I think he'll probably still have a good amount of political influence even after this trial is over. As much as it would be funny for him to just go to prison for corruption. Like, imagine if Hitler got in power and wanted to do the Holocaust and stuff, but then they were like, corruption, kind of a bad look, sorry. And then he went to jail. But that didn't happen because, you know, they don't care. The far right does not care about that shit. Can't believe I live in the world where Elon Musk is weirdly part of the government. He already kind of was. It just took until now for that to be stated openly and normalized. You know? Elon Musk is one of the biggest recipients of U.S. government contracts and has been in the ear of the U.S. federal government and various U.S. state governments for a long time. Unironically, half of the reason that car infrastructure is so bad in the United States, that you know, there hasn't been public transit built, is because a lot of times when public transit is about to be built in a big state like New York or California, Elon Musk will come in and be like, no, guys, I have a better idea, the fucking gamer hole. And then the government will be like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll give you a $18 squidrillion contract. And then he never builds it because the intent was always just to kill, you know, public transit. And yes, real Cryoraptor, you're right. That part of the reason that a lot might not happen as a result of this trial is because it's like it would just after Netanyahu, it'll just be someone else. How do you think liberals like Shu on Head will react to the next 4 years? That's a good question. Shu on Head, I'm not entirely sure because she's just kind of she's a populist in a way. She really, really likes populism. So I think she actually might react positively to some of this, but she probably won't react positively to everything because, like, she's not a complete moron, I guess. I don't know. Liberals are gonna be, like, crying and shitting and coming. Because liberals really, really don't like Donald Trump. But a lot of them are still going to be in some of them might still be in resist lib territory. Ultimately, I actually think that the long-term fascist success hinges on their ability to convince liberals that the world is still ultimately as it was, you know? Liberals, if you don't like Donald Trump, why didn't you try to win? That's an excellent question. Well, here's the thing, is that in the liberals' mind, they are trying to win. The problem is they just don't want to win on terms that are required in order for them to win. Liberals want to win in a completely counterfactual, counter-material way. To the mind of the liberal, right? And I mostly mean the liberal politician, because they're the only ones whose political view is, like, consistent enough for me to really make this assessment, have it be true for all of them. But this does also apply to some non-politician liberals, a lot of them, in fact. In the mind of the liberal, what the people want is a fixed thing that is completely unchanging, and they simply must adjust themselves in order to best achieve like electoral victory. There's a narrative among liberals that you know, their version of realpolitik is the realpolitik, and any realpolitik that dictates movement left is like heresy or something. It is a very weirdly, like, dogmatic view of politics, right? Like, a lot of times liberals will completely out themselves by not having any real positions or values by campaigning to people rather than on certain messaging. And the mindset that what the people want and what ideology or what policy making is necessary is a fixed thing ultimately leads to them, like, stagnating and not doing any messaging. They believe that not only is their view better than the Republicans, but it is self-evidently so, and thus the people do not need to be convinced of it, you know? They literally have an ideological objection to outreach. They think that engaging with the voters is beneath them. And that's why liberals lose, because they're incapable, they're like, they fashion themselves the competent technocrat, and they reject the concept of politics as a popularity contest, which it is. You have to be popular in order to get elected in a system that has elections. Republicans understand this. Democrats do not. And liberals generally do not. This is why you get stuff like, you know, Macron kind of behaves like the Democratic Party sometimes. Yeah, they're institutionalists. They actually couldn't give two shits about democracy, liberals, as long as there's a competent bureaucrat running things. You know, that's why they always run these geriatric fucks, is because they are the competent bureaucrats, even though they're way less competent than they like to imagine they are. And they genuinely think that, like, political chops are not necessary. Like being able to perform for the camera is not a necessary or desirable component of public office. Yeah, that's That's right, Gotron. I'm glad you pointed that out. A lot of liberal identity actually does come from sort of like imitating the far right, because the question that liberals asked was like, oh, we need our own Joe Rogan. We need to, in this way, be more like the far right. Like, no. You know? And they're committed to not listening to that, too. Again, because they think that, like, they literally think that they are immune to democracy, if that makes sense. Like, I'm remembering that a little after the election, you know, CNN actually flirted with the idea of, like, oh, does the left need a Joe Rogan? And they actually went to talk with Hassan. They talked with Hassan about this, and Hassan was like trying to give it to him straight. Like, look, the Democrats are massive failures, and you can't podcast your way out of this. And then they basically heard what they wanted to hear, and like said, oh, that means we need to develop a podcast. We can podcast our way out of this. It's like, you know. The liberals are much more interested in the institutions than they are in winning. And if winning means they have to be critical of those institutions, then they will not win. They will decide not to win, because they will decide to not engage in the only behavior that could result in them winning. They clearly want Harris to be their Trump, and that's not how it works. Yeah, that's the thing. It's always like, who is our Trump? Who is our Joe Rogan? It's like, you don't really have one of those. Because Trump and Joe Rogan are products of capital. They are a product of a very capital-rich environment that produced them. You can't do that. But of course, the Democrats aren't part of the left. And they are also a party of capital. Yeah, Republicans didn't want Trump, but once it became clear that he was their guy, that he was super popular among Republicans and even, like, not super ideological voters because of his populism, they were like, shit, I guess this is what we're stuck with. You know? Democrats, the difference is, Republicans decided to embrace that populism, and Democrats decided to continue fighting it. You know, the Democrats, like, in 2016, the writing was already on the wall that institutionalist Democrats were not, you know, that wasn't it. You know, Bernie Sanders was super popular. What did they do? They snubbed him in the primary in 2016. They snubbed him in the primary again in 2020. And now the Democratic Party is wondering, like, why did we lose after they excised all of the things that made them popular to begin with? You know? Liberals had their chance of Trump, Bernie Sanders. Not of a Trump necessarily, but of an answer to Trump. They're like, no, he's super aggressive. Yeah, remember that, like, they didn't like Bernie Sanders. They were like, okay, we need to win. And then somebody was like, okay, here's how you win, Bernie Sanders. And they're like, no, but we don't want to. It's like, well, then you're going to lose. And that's it. But I'm actually of the belief nowadays that the Democrats are basically managed opposition. Or not even basically. The Democrats are managed opposition at the behest of private capital. So they will always lose. That is their purpose. To lose to Republicans. Who was the fucking president that said America is a one-party state, but in the typical American extravagance, they have two of them? They were cooking. The only reason Game Theory got the election wrong is because he didn't know how stupid liberals were. Honestly, I think I don't want to hold anything against Game Theory there. I think he mostly got it right. It's just that end prediction. when they do somehow win, they act as caretakers for the next Republicans. Yes. God, that's such a good way of putting it. Sounds like a Jimmy Carter quote. It's not from, I promise you, no American politician has the balls to come up with something like that. I think this was like a president of some country in Africa that was describing American politics. Liberals are just Sims for Republicans. Prove me wrong. I can't because I think you're kind of, you might be cooking. Liberals kind of are like Sims in that they are neutral blank slates that you have to sort of push one way or the other in a sense. Like I said, the liberal democracy is the platform. It is the way things currently are, and it's necessary for people to eventually fall on one side or the other of that when it becomes clear that the status quo is not sufficient for having a healthy human society that is capable of producing good outcomes for people. You know? Hope this age of fascism beats liberalism out of reality. It will. Because as I explained, liberalism isn't just... liberalism being the moderate wing of fascism doesn't just mean that, like... or not being the moderate... What am I saying? Liberalism turning to fascism in times of crisis, as many people have put it, does not just mean that fascism grows as an ideology, in competition to liberalism. No, it means that liberalism eventually becomes fascism. You know? The new ideological divide of the capitalist world is that of fascism and socialism. You know? And liberalism is like almost a leftover at this point. You know? Semi-related, feel like shit. Nasty cough, where I have to go to work tomorrow on Saturday because I'm out of sick days. Oh, shit. You hate to see it. You hate to hear it. Yeah, another really fucked up factor of American economics and like capitalism in America particularly is that we don't get sick leave, or we don't get enough sick leave. You know, there's no government mandated minimum for how many sick days you can get. You know, back in 2022 when the rail workers were going on strike, one of their demands was that you're in the UK, you only get 3 sick days a year. Oh, yeah. I remember the UK's been doing some stuff like that, too, with the whole, like, get sick people back to work. Fuck taking sick days or whatever. I remember that Rishi Sunak press conference. What was I going to say about... I was going to say something about sick days. That there's no mandated minimum amount of sick days. Oh yeah, the striking railroad workers back in 2022. One of the things that they had on their list of demands is they want sick days. They wanted sick days. They didn't get any sick days. Those guys were on call 24/7 every single day of the year, and they didn't get any allowances for days off. Imagine if you named your stream after Trump, like Trump press conferences. That'd be funny. And people called selfish for striking. Yeah. Because a lot of people are just at a very baseline level reactionary, kind of dumb, and don't understand politics. But that's not their fault. That's been engineered by the larger media climate that only ever really offers a pro-business and anti-worker perspective whenever strikes happen. You know? Yeah, the media gaslights people hard. Pay wasn't even one of the reasons they were striking. Yeah, no, it was like, their demands were literally, I want to see my family again. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Like, these guys weren't allowed to go home to see their kids. They were like, no, the pay's fine. I want to go home and see my wife again. Like, holy shit, dude. Sunak's government also passed a law which means some percent of the strikers have to go back to work after X date if the company orders them. That's fucked up. It feels like a civil war is about to happen. I don't think a civil war is about to happen, again, because of, like, civil wars have a really, really high bar. But I think you're right in that conditions are kind of regressing and worsening to a point that we haven't seen in a long, long fucking time. You know, maybe not civil war, but there's going to be a lot more civil unrest. Also, so much agitation. Yeah, that's really, I think, what's going to happen in America. I think there's enough developing political and class consciousness that if that civil discontent happens, it won't be like a civil war kind of situation a la American Civil War. It might be in a way like there might be some strife and skirmishing that goes on, or some like really flaring up tensions between basically the American government and people who are not fond of the American government. And by that I mean like the government acting as an arm of private capital and people who really don't like private capital, you know? Because when the fascists get in power, all of a sudden they're going to be very, very pro-government. Imagine in the future they call this States' Rights Part 2. That'd be funny. Or against axing of station staff. Yeah, that's right. I remember that, I think, as well. A lot of them were short-staffed. Guards, etc., they correctly point out, created a less safe environment. Yeah, so the pay was fine, but it was like, dog, these conditions are extremely dangerous, and I'm literally not allowed to go home to see my family. Like, please. You know? In that kind of environment, people are too primed to understand that, like, the fucking corpo executives hate them to do, like, to have a very tribal factionalist sort of internal conflict, you know? I don't think, I could be wrong, like, I'm not a historian, but I genuinely don't think it would be like that. Anyways, I want to get on to the next topic that was on the list. Remember when Ben Shapiro said CEOs are people too? I remember that. I remember his comment section fucking tore him a new one for that, and I respect the hell out of him for it. Got him. That may have been a mistake. Is this Zelda music? No, this is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon music. This is Dusk Forest, and what's about to play on lap 3 here is Deep Dusk Forest. It does sound a little bit like Legend of Zelda, though. I might even stream a little bit longer than 2 hours if necessary, just to get through all the topics I have on the list. Remember, one of our customers is a postman, and when he was on strike, he was like, yeah, the right-wing media is lying. We're not even striking about our pay conditions. Our pay, the conditions are atrocious. Yeah. In an alternate universe, can you imagine how mad Republicans would be if a woman was president? Yeah, they'd be pretty mad. They would be. I would be like, well, I don't know if they'd be that mad. But then I remembered that Republicans would only allow there to be a like, they would only be okay with a woman being president if it was one of theirs. So yeah, I can imagine it would be funny how mad they would get. Have to call it a night, so don't want to be sleep deprived as well as ill tomorrow. Godspeed, man. Good night. Just two more things. There's two more things I have on the topic list, and then I'll be done with this stream, and I'll be good, I think. First thing is the Democrats quadrupling down on gerontocracy. The Democrats are a very gerontocratic organization. They favor seniority and adherence to the sort of party structure above all else. To such an extent, you will not find anybody on the Democratic leadership under the age of like 60. They're old. They are old. You know? And one of the developments to that effect that happened recently was that the House Oversight Committee, there's a very powerful committee in the legislature in the United States. They do a lot of things that are like on camera, and there's like there's an imperative there that, like, if you're on the Oversight Committee, if you're the leader of the Oversight Committee, you can basically drive the narrative to an extent. It's an arm of media messaging that you can use. And yes, Gotron, you're exactly right. They knew young people would be progressive, and they're scared of young people. And particularly, what they were afraid of was AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She is a favorite politician of many progressives, including myself. Her and the other politicians that are part of like the Justice Democrats, the Sunrise Movement, I don't think the DSA has any members elected to the national legislature, but there are a couple of other groups in there that do some really good stuff. AOC, is that a YouTuber? No. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a congresswoman representing a district from New York. She is I guess you could say that she's a social democrat, but I genuinely think that she is a socialist, or would eventually become that. She's a young, very left-wing politician in the U.S. who won a surprise victory in a primary election and has been very popular with the left ever since. She's been basically one of the two big like faces of the left in the US. And she's been constantly bullied and like yanked around and stymied and resisted by the Democratic Party leadership because they are more afraid of her than they are of Donald Trump. They are more committed to fighting people like AOC in Congress than they are committed to fighting Republicans. Liberals have nightmares of AOC. They probably just think like, she's too young and like not proper or something like that. They would probably do some more tut-tutting kind of disapproval. Although I guess if you really brought them down to it, they might be more harsh on AOC than Trump, potentially. Whatever. Point is, the House Oversight Committee was open for new leadership, and AOC wanted to take the position because, again, media opportunity, the opportunity to drive the narrative, to genuinely like try to gain ground with left-wing politics. And the Democratic Party was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So they instead decided on Gerry Connolly. Let's look this guy up. Jerry Connolly, U.S. Congressman from my state, the state of Virginia, unfortunately. Born 1950, age 74, and my man has cancer. For the fucking most visible committee in the national legislature, they decided, let's not go with a media-savvy, progressive young woman who everybody loves. Let's instead go with a cancer-addled septuagenarian establishment fuck who will do nothing, say nothing, and basically just occupy space. It's shit like this that should make it very clear the position of the Democratic Party in all this. And their role. You know? I don't think you've ever met industry like liberals that failed so badly in my life. Yeah, failure is kind of the name of the game. They had the revolutions in the late 18th, early 19th century. That was kind of it. Industrialization, you know, maybe. But, no, yeah. The Democrats are piss scared of socialism. You know, so much so that they will literally work with Republicans to avoid it. Imagine future superhero stories like I work under Trump. That's true. Although, thankfully, the silver lining to that, the more the Democratic Party distances itself from popular sentiment, the more they entrench themselves in institutionalism, and the more they recede into the background, the less relevant they become. So that the object of the discourse is the masses versus the Republican Party and the big corporations that the Republican Party has the support of and supports, you know, in a cycle like that. You know, the Democrats are almost going to be like a non-participant in politics because of shit like this. And as a result, they're going to kind of disappear. I guess I was wrong about which, you know, again, I will freely admit, I was wrong about which party would disappear, giving rise to a new, like, political force. I think it might be a Democrat. It might be the Democrats disappearing. Because people are way, way more ready for AOC and Bernie Sanders and are way more willing to be like, yes, give me that institutional change. We need a better life. I don't want the country to keep just getting plundered by corpos over and over and over again and like nothing to show for it, you know? And Republicans are like, we see you, we hear you, and it's Jewish people and migrants' fault or something, and trans people. And then meanwhile, the Democrats will deny that any problem even exists. Republicans will lie about the nature of the problem, but acknowledge that a problem exists. Democrats won't even go that far. Democrats will fucking lie to themselves before acknowledging that anything could be wrong with liberalism. It's wacky as hell. Yeah, and Republicans are, as they have in the past, are going to engage in this kind of rhetorical flourish where they're like, oh, you know, there are reasonable Democrats out there that we can work with and have bipartisanship, but these radical left terrorists are too much. The Republicans are going to stroke the ego of the Democratic Party in just the right way to incentivize them to keep moving right. Again, not that the Democrats really needed any help to decide to completely abandon the working class and move to the right, to the extent that they have, but the Republicans are going to help that process along to sort of further incorporate the liberal establishment into the new fascist machine. And that's going to leave a power vacuum, I think, where there's like a completely dissonant political force with what the public at large wants. Yeah, they can have an even faker democracy that was already pretty fake to begin with. And then, but that's you know, that's me being liberalism's strongest hater. And you know, just another one of those things. You can expect to see a lot of this going forward, where progressives will try to assert themselves in the Democratic Party in moments of weakness like this. only to find that the Democratic leadership still has enough sauce in their bones just to muster, you know, the strength to fight progressives and keep progressives out of any semblance of the halls of power, you know? You know, Republicans, I sleep. Progressives, real shit. And I found the quote, too. There's one from Noam Chomsky. The United States effectively has a one-party system. The business party with two factions, Republicans and Democrats. Which is correct. Do you have a Discord? Yeah, you can type !Discord in the chat. Where is here it is. Okay, yeah. This one fucking slaps. Julius Nyerere. Yeah, Tanzanian anti-colonial activist, politician, and political theorist. Governed Tanganyika as prime minister from 61 to 62, and then as president from 63 to 64. And then was president of Tanzania from 1964 to 85. So this man is like the classic military dictator African president guy. And President Nyerere of Tanzania said, yes, we have one party here, but so does America. Except, with typical extravagance, they have two of them. Beautiful, thank you. Variant, the United States is also a one-party state, but with typical American extravagance, they have two of them. There you go. Which is kind of a variation on the theme that, yeah, there's one party, and it's the party of business interests, but it is divided into two factions, the Republicans and the Democrats. What is Bowser's Lava Road, I wonder? Classic. And now, as I'm doing just this last little bit on time trials here, the last thing... Actually, do you want Evil Corporation? Do you want slightly less Evil Corporation? Basically, that's the choice you're offered in a two-party system such as this. That's what it is. The last thing was about social media and Blue Sky. The last I talked about Blue Sky, it was about the whole issue with moderation and how the Blue Sky moderation team was adamant on not banning Jesse Singal from the platform. For those not familiar, Jesse Singal is an anti-trans journalist, heavy air quotes around the word journalist, whose main claim to fame is that he defended pedophile conversion therapists, defends pedophiles pretty frequently, and also doxed the medical records of trans children in an effort to bring down the in an effort to like convince the state to further marginalize trans people. That's who Jesse Singal is. He's like John Transphobe, you know? So he actually went on Blue Sky for the express purpose of colonizing the platform. And he brought a bunch of people with him. And people started saying, like, hey, Blue Sky moderation, fucking ban this clown. You know, this guy is you know, he's everything that this platform was created to not be. You know, this guy's a fucking relic of Twitter. We don't want Blue Sky to be Twitter. And at the first meaningful test of whether Blue Sky moderation would be willing to, like, genuinely distinguish themselves from Twitter in protecting trans people and other minorities from harassment, they decided not to do it. This, I think, rightly positioned everybody against Blue Sky moderation, and despite the fact that it is actually kind of over now, like that fiasco is kind of, the discussion has died down, at least somewhat. People realize now, like, okay, Blue Sky ultimately is going to be no different than Twitter. What ended up happening to supposedly resolve this is Jesse Singal like got bored on Blue Sky because his harassment tactics weren't very effective, you know? And as a result, he just kind of went back to Twitter, you know, having been bored the whole time. And no thanks to Blue Sky moderation, of course, but now that's sort of resulted in there being a little bit of hope, yes, but I think that when the dust has settled, people have realized, okay, Blue Sky might be more resilient to this kind of influence for the time being, but ultimately, because of the inclinations of the moderation team not to protect trans people and to ultimately allow transphobia back on this platform, you know, so long as it comes from a big enough account, eventually Blue Sky will share the same fate as Twitter, regrettably. That it will devolve into a far-right cesspit due to the interest of capital being incredibly reactionary and unwilling to support minorities and, you know, shut out reactionary voices, especially when said reactionary voices are in the good graces. Yeah. We need a leftist platform where it's made by and moderated by left and stuff. Autocorrect murdered that sentence. It did. Yeah, I think we do need some version of that. You know, that would be nice. But, you know, that kind of thing is hard to achieve. Where you have, like, a platform where you participate in the public discourse at large, but you are able to also exclude the worst elements of that, the far right. It leads me to believe, I believe Blue Sky now kind of on the same track that Twitter was a little while ago, especially considering that Blue Sky is also owned by a lot of the same people who own Twitter, you know, the same shareholders and investors and stuff. It does kind of make me think the left is probably going to have a pretty nomadic existence online. You know? Like, hopping from platform to platform, finding occasionally a larger niche where, you know, the public discourse is very visible and where, like, everybody can find each other again, but eventually doomed to the same fate of being colonized by the far right and have capital just kind of, like, gladly open the door for Nazis, you know, such that a lot of people on the left have a very kind of sporadic existence on social media on much smaller networks that are run by leftists. There exists like very socialist leaning and overtly socialist run social media platforms. The problem is just they're not very big, you know? That might be what happens in the future, which is, I guess that's kind of where, you know, direct group chats and building community and stuff like Discord and whatever, and just, like, you know, texting your homies comes in. And I did also speculate another time that this could have, like, an unintended effect of channeling people into more real-life organizing efforts through, like, social media not being good enough to find political camaraderie in your political bedfellows and such. It, funnily enough, might actually compel people to organize in real life, which would be very funny. Far right would be like, why do you keep running away from me? Yeah, it kind of would be like that. It would be continually the left running and the far right chasing them, specifically because the far right thrives on that shit. They thrive on the left being present. The entire identity of conservatives and fascists is antagonizing other people. If there's nobody else to antagonize, if everybody else is the far right, shit gets boring really quick. You know? That's why so many conservatives and stuff will be like, I hate losing friends over politics. People should stop doing that, because they're losing friends over politics. Their politics revolves around being a massive piece of shit and openly antagonizing, but they can't get off on that if nobody's willing to allow them to be that way around them, you know? They have isolated them. in colonizing big platforms, in a way, the right is isolating themselves and driving the left to seek more social means of existence away from the right, you know? So, like, all that to say, it could be a good thing, but it could also very well be a bad thing. When you shut the left out of a larger and more recognizable online existence, that just opens up more people to go down the far right pipeline, you know, because that's on the much more prominent websites anyway. And it also marginalizes even further a lot of queer kids and queer people who go to the internet for escape. A lot of people growing up might only be able to escape a repressive home environment either with a handful of real life friends, or if they don't have that, through the internet. And if the internet is gone, insofar as like if that avenue is gone on the internet, then you know, that's what my social media experience has been like. The Barry Allen in the Flash show where he's running and he looks behind and screaming. Yeah. Say skill issue. True. Yeah, unironically, if you're losing friends over politics and those friends are like not conservatives, if they're conservatives, good. I don't think you want those people in your life anyway. But if you're like losing liberals and other left-leaning friends in your life, or other like normies, over having politics of like trans people or groomers or whatever right-wing beliefs that you have, if those are costing you friends, good. Don't have those beliefs and you won't lose friends over it. I have a ton of conservative friends. I'm not surprised about that necessarily. Yeah, having conservatives as friends is a little bit like it's a little bit like that. They don't care. I like to argue with them about it. Sick. That's nice. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, those were my thoughts on various things happening day to day. I don't think any segments will come out of that. This stream provided a nice sense of closure, which is what I wanted it to do. I was interested in sort of getting my thoughts out there and going through the list of all the stuff I had written down that I wanted to talk about, so that I could be basically done with that and start like thinking about next stream. You know, a lot's happening in the world, and I am on a roll today, but the world isn't. Yeah, if the cure for cancer was found, the cost of it would be your conservatism. That's so true. Honestly, if the cure for cancer was found, a lot of conservatives wouldn't take it. And you know what? That's fine by me. You know, the right is so anti-vax. If we found the cure for cancer, they genuinely wouldn't want it, and I am totally okay with that. You know. Yeah, conservatives really do just keep picking the option that kills themselves faster. And hey, as long as that effect is limited to them, then, you know, that's your choice and you have the right to make it. Just don't do it in a way that brings the rest of us down too. Which they will anyway. Anywho. Yeah, they also drag their children with it. That's the worst bit of a lot of these beliefs, is that they will impose a lot of this shit on kids. You know, the whole trans groomers coming for your kids, all of that is projection, because conservatives view their own children as property and will very, very happily impose an anti-vax worldview on them. And it gets them killed sometimes. Yeah, conservatives are pro-life and not pro-choice until you start talking about vaccines. Fuck, that's so true. Yeah, you could say that it's the right to project. In fact, you know, you might have been cooking earlier when you said that the right wants the right to project. Keep cooking. Do not stop cooking. Anyway. I'm going to raid Cody Schwab. My man is live and playing Super Smash Bros. As is the usual. I may soon be playing Super Smash Bros. Who knows? I might actually I might do that. I might start on like a Pokemon game that has a nice story component to it. Just something with a little bit more of a narrative logic that has a defined start and end point would be nice. You play the story for Super Smash Bros. One cuts. Oh, Subspace Emissary. That might be fun. I could do that. Yeah, that would be really fun. Subspace would be cool. I'll consider it. All right. See you guys next time, whenever that is.